Hey guys, and welcome to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report presented by Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection with eXp Realty, the first podcast to bring you the local inshore, offshore, and onshore fishing report, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. We have a great show lined up this week, but first, let's see who's making the show possible. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report brought to you by Great Days Outdoors magazine. Are you looking for that one-of-a-kind Christmas or birthday gift? If so, head on over to greatdaysoutdoors.com and check out the best gifts for Outdoorsman 2021. We've curated a bunch of unique gift ideas to help you find an awesome gift for the Outdoorsman on your list. Just head over to greatdaysoutdoors.com/best gifts for Outdoorsman to check it out. And also brought to you by Fishing Chaos, fishing tournaments coming up near you. Mobile Bay Kayak Fishing Association is hosting a free December fish out sponsored in part by Humminbird. Fishing boundaries are from the Navarre Beach Causeway to the east, and the west boundary is the Mississippi River. One lucky winner will win a Helix 9 fish finder valued at over $1,500. There is an undisclosed mystery length. The angler who catches the first speckled trout matching or closest to the mystery length wins the Humminbird Helix 9 fish finder. There are also prizes for first, second, and third place, determined by the aggregate length of 3 speckled trout. Big fish prizes will also be awarded on a weekly basis. Fishing lasts from December 4th to December 31st of 2021. The mystery length will be revealed when the tournament closes. To register, simply download the Fishing Chaos app or go to www.fishingchaos.com and register for a free Fishing Chaos user account. Then go to the Club tab on the left side menu. Find the Mobile Bay Kayak Fishing Association Club and join the club. After joining the club, go to tournaments at the button of the club page and register for the December fish off. All right, folks, welcome back to the Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report. I am your host, Butch, Thierry, and I'm joined today with my trusty co-host, Angelo DePaola, the Coastal Connection. How are we doing today, Angelo?
Man, doing great, Butch. Doing great. Glad to be back on with you. One of my favorite parts of the month.
Heck yeah, man. It's a beautiful day here in South Alabama. How are things over there in Orange Beach?
I mean, what unseasonably warm weather. At like 5 a.m. this morning, it felt like I walked outside to summertime.
Yep.
Hot and humid.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it. I think it's probably got the trout bite a little messed up. I mean, you were telling me they're thick in the river, but I was
whoa. Now that's secret information.
and later on, we'll be dropping the coordinates to Butch's house, so you know exactly where to go.
Snakes and crocodiles in here. Stay out. Hazardous. Oh man. But yeah, fishing's been interesting. Last week we talked to a couple of guys, Richard and Bobby, and they're just saying it's a little bit off. And like you say, it's a little bit unseasonably warm, and they think that we're a little bit behind. And we need some serious cold weather for these fish to get into their full winter pattern and start searching out these deeper pockets and river channels and things like that. So it'll be interesting to hear what Captain Patric says in a little bit. Well, what's going on over in Orange Beach, man? It's been a while since we've had a real estate recap. What are you guys seeing? I know, the market has been really good. Home prices seem to be priced well to sell. What are you guys seeing over there as far as, real estate recap?
It's been interesting as we look at the second half of the year, really going from like July to like kind of this point now, because this first part of the year was just explosion in prices and tons of transactions, and we had a whole round of houses and condos and just property in general that, like, if something was selling for 500 and the next thing sold for 550 and the next thing sold for 600, the next person would put theirs up at 650, and it kind of slowed down, and we went from like a really tight inventory market of like 10 to 15 days of inventory on the market to something that had jumped all the way up to 38 days of inventory on the market, which was pretty interesting because that's still not a lot of inventory. Traditionally, we're running 60 to 90 days worth of inventory. But over the past 6 to 8 weeks, we've watched that trend slowly go to like 35, 30, 25. And like right now, what we're seeing, especially in the resort market, Dolphin Island, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, all the way over to like Panama City, we're really seeing a lot of shrinkage of inventory. Demand's outstripping it. And for instance, like this week in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, this past week, we had 47 properties come to market, but 110 of the properties went pending, giving us about 13 days worth of inventory, which is kind of right in line where we were right the beginning. Like, and these are trends. You've seen it trend down, and maybe last week was an anomaly. We track it every week. Is my guess it has a little bit to do with Thanksgiving holidays and people being in town and taking an opportunity to go look and put things under contract right as we're coming to the end of the year. But even with that being said, the week before that was 18 days worth of inventory. The week before that, like 19 days worth of inventory. So it'll be very interesting. If I was in the market to buy right now, I feel like we're going to see a big push this spring. You'll probably see some equity gains. I mean, we've seen probably 20 to 25% equity gains across all markets along the Gulf Coast. It'd be hard pressed to see that again next year, I believe. But if you're looking to buy, if the situation's right, what you've found is what you're looking for. It's a good time to pull the trigger. And if you're looking to sell, especially if you have investment properties, like we're selling off some of our investment condos just because I'm not a greedy pig and I can take, I don't mind pulling some money off the table and putting it in my pocket. So it's great on either side of it. And it just sounds sleazy when you say, hey, it's a great time to buy or sell. But really right now there's properties that don't come on the market very often, some really nice legacy properties, and prices are up if you're a seller, and there's still room for market gains if you're a buyer. So if you've been on the fence, reach out to me. You can get at me. I tell you the easiest way. There's two ways. You guys let me send out an email to people that listen to this show. You can just click on that email. All our contact information is there. Or just go to our website, thecoastalconnection.com, or find us on Facebook, The Coastal Connection. And we're on all the other social media, but those are the ones that I think most people access us through.
Yep, for sure, man. What about interest rates? What do you guys see as far as interest rates go? Is that still a perk right now to buy?
They're up a tad, but I mean, what's the difference between 2.875 and 3% or
Right.
3.25? It's on terms of what it costs you to borrow money, it's next to nothing. It's historically low.
So it's still great.
Still great. We'll probably see some interest rate bumps because if you watch the news, they keep on talking about inflation. We'll have to do something to fight it. But I don't think we'll ever see 5% interest rates, not for a long time. And I remember 15, 20 years ago, 5% interest rate was like awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you told somebody 5% that you'd probably send them to
pass out. That's
yeah.
Right. Well, that's good to know, man. Thank you for sharing that recap with us and giving us the information to get up with it. You guys definitely take advantage of that. If you're looking for a vacation home or a rental property over there at Orange Beach, Gulf Shores, heck, you guys are from what you sell from Dauphin Island all the way over to Panama City now.
Yeah. I mean, we'll be in Destin on Friday, and we're in Pensacola this morning. What's kind of unique when you deal with us is we're not going to kind of steer you one direction or the other. We can tell you the pros and cons. We've got a unique perspective that I don't think anybody else has. So we'd love to work with you, and I just think we're good at it.
That's right. Heck yeah, you are. Good deal, man. Well, let's get into the fishing reports. We're going to get our offshore report first this week. Let's go head over to Northwest Florida. Let's see what our buddy Joe Baya is up to.
Dude, I cannot wait for this report. Somebody's cooking some good food and you've been smelling it all day.
And building it up.
That's how I feel about this report. It's just.
Yep. Captain Adam Peeples, man. He knows his stuff over at the One Shot Charters over there in Destin. Let's see what he's got going on. What you say, Joe?
What's going on, Butch?
Not much, man.
Up this week, we're going to take it offshore, and we're going to hear about a state record fish, which is always cool. But I love talking to different captains from all over the Gulf. But heck, in today's age, we're kind of all heading in the same direction when you start talking about blue water fishing, which is the name of the game this year. You guys hearing anything different from your side of the pond, from the offshore guys over there?
Not really, man. We talked to Dustin Bedgood last week, and he's been hitting those big stumps out there pretty good. He got in the same kind of batch of big eyes that Captain Adam did. And he's been doing really well with the yellowfin. Swordfish, same kind of deal. He's been crushing the swordfish. Anything you're hearing over there at Orange Beach Marina, Angelo? Anything different?
Man, I will tell you, most of the guys here have put their boats on the hill for the winter and are getting ready to head south, which kind of, watching Johnny Green and these guys here, they're just doing all their maintenance. So I'm just excited to hear some great reports. I've been hearing stories of giant big eyes and giant swordfish for the past week, so I'm salivating at the mouth just to
get the offshore bite.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, let's go do it this week. Joining us again, Adam Peeples, One Shot Fishing Charters. Adam, last week we talked to you. You were right in between trip, heading back out on another overnight, and now we get to hear about what happened next. So tell us what's been going on, man.
Oh man, some incredible fishing has been going on. Really, really good. Really, really good tuna fishing. Really big ones. You know, when I talked to you last, we had caught a couple really big eyes. In fact, they were both bigger than the current Florida record. But you know, we had passed off anglers and harpooning the fish, so they didn't qualify for the record, which was not really a concern of ours on that trip, anyways. We went out again the following day though, and you know, made the effort to make sure we had somebody that was ready to harness up and ready to do battle. And if we got the opportunity at another fish, you know, we would hopefully be able to do it the right way and it would qualify for a record. So we went out there and we struggled for the first whole part of the day. Really, it was a struggle, but you know, right around 10:30 at night, we finally got a good bite and we hooked a really, really big yellowfin. I mean, really big. Got it up underneath the boat, and unfortunately the fish was hooked deep, and after about an hour it pinched us off.
Dang it.
Oh,
Yeah, it was substantially bigger than any fish that we caught. It was a big fish. That was kind of a heartbreaker. The guy, the fellow in the harness, did a great job on him. He was demoralized, but we were encouraged that we got a bite. Hung around there for a little while. It just kind of died off. Wasn't really happening, so we made a moved to a new spot. First bait down, we caught a 158-pound big eye. We reset, put another one down, and that's when we hooked the 219. Joe fought in stand-up harness and got him the right way, man. Got the gas in him and got him on the boat, and we went to sleep for a few hours after that.
I bet, man. Gosh, that's a big fish. How were you guys catching them, Captain Adam? You live baiting or chunking, or what you guys doing?
Yeah, this mainly live bait. I've been getting them as hardtails.
Gotcha.
where are you catching your live baits at?
We actually caught them on the drill ship there. There was a ton of hardtails on the drill ship. We just saw them busting during the day while we were over there fishing and said, hey, let's take a few minutes to ease over here and sabiki some baits up. So, you know, we put 4 or 5 dozen in the live well and just kind of stowed them away. And that ended up being what they wanted to eat. That's what they wanted. They didn't want big baits. They wanted the little crack hardtails. So they were all over them.
I don't have a ton of experience whenever it comes to live baiting tuna, other than just, you know, slipping out a live croaker or something like that in a chunk. That's basically right. Yeah, poor people live bait.
Right.
So what are you looking for, man? Are you watching your machine looking for bait, or how are you targeting these fish whenever you're live baiting them? If you're not, you know, chumming with live bait, how are you targeting these fish?
Man, I mean, we're just really, so that particular trip, there was just no current. So, you know, we just kind of sat there. We kind of bump trolled one out way behind us. And then we just, you know, pulled up. Once we got that bait away from us, we just stopped and took a hardtail and slung him far enough away from the boat that he wouldn't find the boat again and just let him swim. And man, the fish, it was just one of those sections of time when I don't really think it mattered what you did, as long as you had the bait they wanted to eat. What they wanted to eat was hardtails. I mean, it was one of those things where, I mean, we could have caught as many as we wanted. It was just, you know, when they started biting, it was just, we stopped. There's no need for more. But tunas are so weird. You know, sometimes you'll see them and you can just see them busting and you know they're there and you can't get them to bite anything. And then sometimes they'll bite anything you put out there, or sometimes they only want one thing. It's just, man, with tuna fishing, if something's not working, just try something else. You know, that's how I look at it. You know, something's got to work at some point. And that's kind of what we did.
Man, that's great advice, because I think if you've tuna fished enough, you've all seen that scenario play out where you just keep mixing it up and hopefully eventually you get a bite. And sometimes it can be, you know, you get a little bite on it just about everything you do, but you don't really wear them out on any one particular tactic. You pick up one on the popper, one on the chunk, one on the live bait, one on the troll.
Chunk troll kite.
Yeah, one on
popper,
the kite.
chunk troll kite popper. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. A lot of fun for the deck
A lot of changing it up. Yeah, not that fun for the deckhand for sure.
I will tell you this: if I'm chunking, this is the last resort.
Dire straight.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Absolutely feel that.
Same. Adam, going back to live baiting though, was it necessary? I mean, you bridling these baits up, or I mean, how are you rigging these live baits to fish them?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just use a little black rigging band, and we bridle them up. That's right, either through the shoulders or through the nostrils, depending on the size of the bait. Sometimes the smaller baits, it's better to go through the shoulder because their nostrils are so small. you'll end up kind of ripping a hole, and it's easier to rip them off. So yeah, just using a simple rigging band and a rigging needle. You just pass through one time, bring the hook back around through the loop. And that's the cool thing about those little bands. You don't have to spin the hook and go back through the loop or anything. You just hook it on there. It's just easy.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What about circle hook size? When you're fishing that kind of live bait, I mean, what's your go-to there?
I match the hooks to the size of the bait I'm using. So, with the smaller baits, you're going to want to go a smaller hook. Definitely 4X, a really, really stout hook. I will say this, we knew there were some jumbos in the area. That's all we were hooking. So we were a little beefier than probably normal, but usually I like to size my hook to the bait size. You don't want a huge honking circle hook hanging off of a 5-inch hardtail. You'll never get a bite. But yeah, just trying to make it an appropriate size to the bait that can still handle the fish you're trying to catch, I guess would be the best advice.
And speaking of, just tackle recommendations and whatnot, we were talking about all the different tactics it seems like you have to use for tuna sometimes. And one of the things we change so often is leader size. If we're not getting the bite, we're going to scale that down. But you mentioned those jumbos out there, and you also mentioned getting pinched off by that big yellowfin, which is heartbreaking. But was leader material mattering much out there? I mean, were y'all finding the bite was better on a, smaller diameter fluorocarbon or anything like that?
No, they didn't care.
That's my kind of fishing right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'll fish 80 at last resort, man. That's about as light as I like to go for tuna fish, unless there's a bunch of schoolies around or they're smaller. I mean, if you hook a real fish, it's awful nice to be able to put some serious drag on them, and you just can't do that with 80 pound.
No.
100, 130 is nice to put on there. If you get them in the button, man, if the hook hubs up in the corner of their mouth, you don't have to worry about getting chafed off. But I mean, anybody if you ever put your hands on a big tuna fish, they got some teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And those teeth grinding on that leader over the course of a fight, especially under a lot of drag, you're going to get chafed off. I mean, it's just going to happen. So, the main thing is to prevent that, what we were doing is we just were trying not to let them eat long because they're small bait. So basically, when they bit, we already had a little bit of drag on the reel so that hopefully they wouldn't get hooked deep. We weren't trying to repeat what happened with that big yellowfin because that was a heartbreaker.
For sure.
Adam, when you're fishing bigger leaders and stuff, I'm just curious, how do you like to make your connection to your hook and up to your main line? And how long a leader are y'all using?
Yeah, you're using wind-ons or?
No, we're not using wind-ons. Usually run to a swivel, and the leader lengths differ depending on kind of what we're doing. I like what we end up settling on, because usually there's two of us on the boat that are, I'm driving the boat and then I got somebody helping me that's going to, and we have to, between the two of us, leader and gaff the fish. So if the leader is really long, for us, it's harder because now you have a guy that has to leader the fish and he's stuck on that and he can't help do anything else. And then you got to worry about leader getting up on the deck and somebody getting wrapped up in it. So, what we ended up settling on was about 15 feet. And what that did was it's long enough so that the swivel's not going to matter. And it's short enough though, so that when the angler reels up to the rod tip, the leader guy only has to take a wrap and pull just a little bit to get him within gaff range. Now when we're throwing a harpoon at a fish, it's not this important, but when you're trying to gaff a fish and get them to the boat like that, we found that little bit shorter leader was helpful with that for sure.
Yep. I feel like that 15 to 18 foot range is the sweet spot for any kind of, especially if you're wiring a fish. That's about the sweet spot that I found as well.
Yeah. I mean, when we're marlin fishing, we fish, 30-foot leaders just because you want, you can get the release a lot quicker if you got a longer leader, and that's within the rules for release. So we fish a longer leader when we're marlin fishing, but when we're tuna fishing, it's shorter because obviously we're trying to get a hook in the fish.
How are you tying your hooks on? Are you snelling them? Albright? I mean, not Albright, but Palomar knot. How do you crimp?
So no, we never crimp the hooks. So it's either I'm not it's known I don't like snell knots very much, but the guys that fish with me, like Jet, Tim, and Jim, those guys, they like the snell. To me, I like a loop knot personally. For lack of a better description of it, I don't know if that's the name of the knot I use, but it looks like a loop knot. Very similar to a bowline. I like that knot a lot because it lets the circle hook actually swing freely. It's kind of like a crimp connection where as you have a loop at the bottom and the hook can swing freely. I like that knot. But the bottom line is if I have somebody fishing with me, I trust them. And if they want to tie a snail, that's their knot. You know what I mean? And that's what they're comfortable with. So I'm not super picky. I'm more along the lines of, hey, tie what works and go from there.
I find with the snail knot, like especially if you're like in that 80 to 130 range, you basically need to put some chafe tubing on it because they will chafe through if you go too long.
We do, yeah, we do chafe tube them. Yep, and you're exactly right, Angelo, because the way the snail knot works, you know, it does add pressure and it makes the hook bites really well. It's great for getting a good hook set in the fish, but as you're saying, over time, that hook is pressing against that leader the entire battle. You know, I don't care how stiff a leader you got, if you know, just the pressure of that alone, you know, is going to alter that line's strength over time. So that's why I'm a little apprehensive about it. But I will say, man, we caught all of those big fish except one on a snail. You know, it works. It does.
What I find interesting is you like the loop knot on the big tunas, and the reason I say that is when you look at a fish, like you're using a small little bait and a small little hook, and so it's like a big gulping bite, like a tarpon bite or anything that's just going to be easily, you know, if you're live baiting for the blue marlin, you're going to get this like dog bone kind of bite a lot of times. So the fish is going to maneuver the bait around its mouth. And I find that snail knot in that situation is the perfect hook, but or a perfect knot. But on a gulp bite, which you're going to have with a big tuna, that loop knot with a little bit of drag pressure almost always finds home base. And I agree with you. It's a better hook set in that scenario.
I like it. I've used it for years, and then it's my go-to.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the same one, that Joe, that me and you have been kind of obsessed with lately that we've been using for all inshore stuff. I pretty much use it for all of my artificial stuff now, but I've definitely never considered it for offshore use or anything over, 20-pound tests. So that's interesting.
I think the key to what Adam said is that it doesn't matter necessarily what the knot's called, a Polish Palomar, doesn't matter what it is. It's
double elbow butt twist.
Right. Yeah. What matters is it's creating a loop, just like if you crimped it on, and it's allowing that hook that freedom of movement. And he's liking that better. But like you said, Adam, I mean, they all work to some extent. You just find what you're comfortable with and what you're confident in. And man, I love it when other people tie knots. That way,
it's never your fault. That's what I was thinking whenever he said that.
Never my fault.
When you get the little curly cue back and you didn't tie it,
right,
it makes you feel a little bit better.
Oh yeah,
it does.
Great.
It does.
Perfect. Yeah, tie that snail, man. Get that. Oh yeah, snails.
Who tied this knot?
Well, Adam, we're not going to let you go without talking about swordfish, man. What do you expect out of December swordfish? Is this a prime month for you, or do you usually, kind of hit or miss this month? And what was last week like?
It's usually hit or miss for me, and this is usually the time of year that I get to watch all the fellas in Venice and over there in Orange Beach crush them while I'm just wishing for a bite. It seems like the fishing's always better over there that way this time of year. So, man, it's hit or miss. I've caught some really nice ones in December, and I've had some days like we had yesterday where, man, we tried and couldn't get a swordfish bite. We caught 3 pomfrets, so it wasn't a total bust, but man, we, fished multiple spots and fished a lot of drifts and, had perfect baits and just did everything right. It just didn't happen. And that seems to be kind of the way it goes a lot of times where I fish out kind of around the spur this time of year. It's definitely worth going because, man, any trip you could go out there and catch a big one. But it's, this time of year when I go sword fishing or I take people sword fishing, I make sure they understand, like, hey, look, we might have a great day today and catch one, but the chances of not catching one are greater than, say, like April or May.
Right. Not as consistent, but doesn't necessarily mean it can't be really good. It's just no way to, it's not like other times of year where you're pretty sure we're going to get bit today.
Well, it's the beautiful thing about sword fishing, Joe, is you're one bite away from being a hero anytime. So,
right.
All it takes is one fish. And I feel like at any given time out there, as long as there's decent waters out there, you got a shot at catching one.
Yeah, I like it, man. Well, that is really exciting report that I just love hearing about those really big fish.
Hey, Adam, I have a question. I'm just curious. You do a lot more of it than I think any of us do. But the fish in December or January, when you clean them and gut them, what are you finding in their stomachs?
Mostly those little, they're not snake mackerel. They're like these long, eel looking
silver eels,
thing.
cutlass fish. That's the same thing that I find. And the reason I ask
Yeah.
that is because this time of year, those fish especially are migrating out the mouth of the river. And so you have Mobile Bay estuary system and the mouth of the Mississippi River. I bet that those fish are just gorging themselves out of the mouth of the river on those little high spots and dips. And I'll probably even over here to the avalanche this time of year on those silver eels. The problem is there ain't no good way to rig one to where they stay at the hook. I used to put a couple of treble hooks and stuff like you would a king mackerel, but you know, swordfish aren't as dumb as you think they are. They don't care for all the terminal tackle attached to the bait.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. And I'll tell you what looks a whole lot like one of those little silver eels is a nice little silver bonita strip.
Yeah,
that's what I like to use. But those pomfrets yesterday coughed up a bunch of squid, and I mean, of course, I'm sure most everyone has heard about the 537-pound swordfish that was caught at the drill ship, at one of the drill ships. So, man, those things, I like to think I kind of have them figured out. But man, swordfish have a way of humbling anybody. You think you got them figured out, or you think you know what they're doing, and they'll make you just look stupid. That's what I love about them.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week with that Captain Richard and Captain Dustin Bedgood. We got into major and minor talks. Do you put any weight to that when it comes to tuna or swordfish?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, 100%.
And like we were talking last week with Richard and Dustin, I mean, you just got to go. I mean, so it's not really I would assume it's sometimes where you can pick, all right, this is a major, we're going. But I mean, would you plan a trip around it? Do you think it holds that much weight? I know you, as a charter boat captain, you just got to go when you can go or when you're scheduled to go. But as a recreational guy, I mean, how much weight should you put on that? And what should you look at? And what should you watch?
Well, it's definitely something that's noteworthy. Now, I mean, that being said, I've caught plenty of fish that were not in a major or minor. So it's not necessarily like saying like you have to fish this to get a bite. I think it increases your chances to get a bite. I think that with swordfish, I think that they feed until they get as full as they can get. And I think they go lay up and digest. And I think once they get done digesting, they start biting again. It's just, they have to eat a lot. They have to constantly feed. So I think that feeding pattern is probably somewhat in tune with the moon and the majors and minors, because I mean, I've seen evidence of it offshore fishing where, not getting bites all day, and here comes major time and they just start chewing the hooks off. So yeah. And to answer your question, I will plan trips around that. Like, let's say I've got an all day charter. We're going to do some sword fishing. They want to do a little bit of everything else. I'm going to look at the major. And let's say I've got an afternoon major coming up, like from 2 to 4. I'm going to go do other stuff in the morning that they want to do. And then we're going to go sword fishing for the major, because I feel like that's our best shot at a bite. Not to say that we couldn't catch one in the morning, but if I'm going to pick a 2-hour window to fish, I'd much rather it be during the major.
That makes sense.
Adam, really cool to hear about a state record fish and that there's potentially another state record right there out there right now. All somebody's got to do is get out there and get after them. What are you thinking for a tip to wrap up the report this week?
Yeah, so I was having a conversation with a buddy the other day, and we were talking about, I have a life raft, and we're talking about rafts and stuff. And he made the comment, yeah, man, I don't really think I need a raft. My boat's full of foam. It's unsinkable. What do I have to worry about? He never thought about, hey, man, what if your boat catches on fire? There's a slew of scenarios that could cause you to need one. And this time of year, really any time of year, but especially this time of year, if something bad happened and you have to get off the boat, being in the water for an extended amount of time is going to kill you. I know we're not in the Bering Sea and, it's not cold, so people don't really think about that. But you start talking about 68, 70 degree water at nighttime, windy, rough, it's probably going to kill you. And so I think going offshore to do the kind of fishing we've been talking about, whether it's sword fishing or tuna fishing or anything like that, if you're going really any distance, but if you're going offshore, and you don't have an EPIRB and a life raft, man, you're just asking for it. Especially, obviously, EPIRB is not even negotiable. Most everybody has those, but a lot of people don't have these rafts. And, there's, heck, I've got a 6-man raft that's the size of a briefcase. It weighs like 22 pounds. I can stow it just about anywhere. There's just no excuse not to have one. And let me tell you, I sure would rather have it, not need it, than need it and not have it on that boat.
Man, amen. I cannot even imagine trying to think about spending a night offshore in those dark waters. Terrifying.
It's pretty terrifying just being on a boat in those dark waters sometimes.
Yeah,
you know?
it's humbling. You just look around, there's nothing around, pitch black sometimes.
We're going out there. The boats have more fuel, have more range, more fuel economy. You can go up there in a 30-foot boat, and you see people out there all the time in it.
And much smaller than that.
Yeah, and it does not take. I mean, I've been on 2 boats that have caught fire. So
I'm not. You did not just
not
make
to
me want to go
fish
fishing with you.
They weren't mine, but
Right.
we put them out before anything real happened. But I mean, you're running around at night. You can hit logs. I mean, I don't even like peeing off the back deck at night. I have a horrible fear of falling off the boat, and nobody knows that's happened. And if
that's smart. That is a healthy.
Magazines,
That is a healthy fear. That's a smart fear.
you fall over this time of year, you just kiss your ass goodbye. I'm not sure what gets you first, the sharks or hypothermia. I probably would love just to freeze to death really quick.
For sure.
Right. Yeah, that's a great tip, Adam. And you mentioned that small life raft. I mean, especially like Angelo said, people are getting more and more bold with what kind of craft they'll take out there, and they're doing it, in recreational boats that are not, necessarily regulated by the Coast Guard and that kind of thing, and maybe not even had that thought before. What kind of life raft do you carry with you, and do you need to check it every year? Like, how do you go about kind of keeping it up to date and making sure it's going to do what it's supposed to do when you, God forbid, have to deploy it?
Yeah, so I've got a Revere coastal compact 6-man raft. I got the one without the canopy. It's small, and the reason I got without the canopy is just I've got EPIRBs and all this other stuff. I feel like if the sun kills me after 4 or 5 days, and all my other systems have failed, and I probably didn't have a chance anyways. So I got the one without the canopy. It's small, man. I mean, it's like the size of a briefcase, and it's super easy to have on the boat and to maintain. They have a repack date on them, so when you get it, you'll get the whole card, and it'll tell you, hey, this is the repack date that it needs to be repacked and recertified on, and that's an easy process as well. You just mail it off to them and pay the repack fee, and they send it back to you, and it's all ready to go. That's spend the money on that before you spend it on anything else on the boat, as far as I'm concerned, because it might save your life.
Absolutely. Well,
Great
man,
tip.
if folks want to get up with you, Adam, look you up for a trip this winter, and hopefully keep the life raft in the boat, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and check out what you got going on trips wise, and maybe just talk about some of the things we talked about, maybe setting up that timing around these majors and minors? Want to catch a swordfish or go out and do an overnight trip, how should they reach out?
Yeah, man. The best way to do is to check out the website first. It's www.oneshotcharters.com. We'll answer a lot of questions there, and you can read about all the trips and stuff we offer. It's got our contact info there, email, phone. You can reach me through either one. That's the best way to get a hold of us, that right there. The easiest way is just give me a call, and I'll talk to you and answer any questions you got.
Well, man, thanks for the report, and congrats on a state record fish. Being a part of that's very cool. I've never only state record I've ever been a part of, I ate it before I knew it was a state record. So
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. So that's very cool, man. Thanks for sharing.
Cool. I appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.
All right, Cap. Talk to you next time.
All right, boys. I always like talking to Captain Adam. Guy knows a lot, and he fishes hard, and he fishes year round. So it's cool to have that resource to be able to share with everybody else. In the months where most guys are, like you said, Angelo, they're in the yard or hunting or doing whatever it may be, but there's still plenty of fish to be caught out there.
Yep. Great report, man. Those big eyes. We were talking, like I was talking about last week, we talked with Dustin and Richard, and it's funny how those big eyes just pop up every now and again. It seems like whenever they pop up, like, the past couple of weeks, there'll be 4, 5, or 6 boats you get into them. I don't know where they come from. I mean,
feels like December, January. I mean, Bo Keogh caught the Alabama state record a few years ago this time of year. It just, that's why you got to go out there. Those guys that like Adam that go out there on a regular basis, man, It's just, you get out there enough, you're going to hit the right day.
Yep. Never know what you're going to catch out there for sure. It's kind of the same deal. There's always 3 or 4 or 5 bluefins always caught in June, July in the Gulf. They just pop up.
Yep. Memorial Day, you can pretty well figure somebody's going to smash a big bluefin, and
Yep.
Just the way it is. Got to go.
For sure. Got to be out there. Can't catch them on the couch, as Uncle Joey says.
Yep.
All
All
right,
right,
man.
man. Y'all have a good rest of your report.
You too, man. I'm going to go back to the Alabama saltwater fishing report and get our inshore and kayak report. We'll talk to you soon, Joe.
See
All
ya,
right,
man.
talk to you guys later.
All right, folks, that was another great segment. Let's take a quick break and hear from a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Boaters List. Boaters List is your new reliable and fast resource designed to link everyone to everything on the water. If you own or run a boat, you know how difficult it can be to find the right company for the task at hand. Boaters List makes it easy to find the service that you are looking for. Locate anything from fuel docks to service repairs or rentals of large yachts, even down to paddle boards and all things in between. BoatersList.com will always strive to make it better on the water. And also brought to you by Mustad Fishing. Today, 1 in 4 hooks in the world is made by Mustad Fishing. The Mustad brand can be found in over 160 countries and covers all disciplines of fishing. Now more than just a hook manufacturer, they have expanded their product range over the years to satisfy every need of the modern fisherman and woman. They understand that anglers like you would never accept anything less than premium quality, which is why they hold themselves to that same standard. See why Mustad is the best-selling hook brand in the world. Enjoy 25% off your next order at mustad-fishing.com by using code GREATDAYS at checkout. All right, Angelo, let's head on down to our kayak report. Let's get a kayak inshore/nearshore report this week. We're going to hear back from Captain Scott Kennedy, Whistling Waters Kayak Fishing and Outdoors. Welcome back to the show, Captain Scott. How we doing?
Good, guys. How y'all doing?
Good, man. Can't complain. Just talking some fishing. Just got an awesome offshore report. Captain Adam caught a state record big eye tuna. So that was a pretty cool story.
Oh, heck yeah. That's always getting a record's always nice.
Amen, brother. Man, it's kind of a like Angelo and I were just talking about. It's kind of a weird time of year. It's a little bit warm, and inshore fishing just seems to kind of be a little shaken up. I know you've been in the kayak mostly. What are you seeing over there, and where you been hiding out? Just what are you seeing? It seems to be Richard and Bobby were saying last week that we kind of need some more cold weather for the fish to like kind of kick into their winter pattern. They don't seem to be cooperating like we want them to.
Yeah, definitely. That is a lot of what I'm seeing too. The fish just kind of confused right now. It seems like, I'll put together a pattern one day, think I'm starting to figure something out, go back the next day, and it's just a completely different story. Just kind of how I've been going into these trips is bringing way more gear than any one person could ever need. That includes pretty much every bait and lure I own, but I've just been switching out a lot, throwing random things, just trying spots that look good. Some of my, of course I'm going to all my normal areas that I consistently catch fish in, but I've had days where even those spots are a little bit tough for us. So I've just kind of been branching out. Like I said, throwing a lot of different lures. Like yesterday, for instance, we were out kind of midday fishing, and I went through probably about 6 different baits before I finally found one that started catching them. So that's definitely variety is a good thing right now. Kind of what I think. Like you mentioned, the water temperatures are still kind of warm, and they've been fluctuating quite a bit, at least from what I've seen. And yeah, it's just kind of pushing the fish all over the place. But with all that being said, there are still fish to be caught. We've been catching some specks, catching some reds, just kind of working. I've been focusing mainly on some of these kind of, tidal rivers, tidal creeks, the shallower stuff. And yeah, it seems like anywhere I can find, if I can find one of these tidal creeks, a good drop off or like a bend in the creek or anything that's got a deep hole in there, I've been working those over pretty well. And that seems to be where I've found a lot of my trout have been down in those deeper holes. And then, kind of start branching off of those holes, kind of if you can find a flat or anything near it, especially if it's a flat with some kind of structure on it, like stumps or something. That's where I've been catching a lot of my redfish. So not necessarily in the same exact spot as trout, but not very, very far from them either. So it's been good. It's been a lot of really, really clean water for us. So I've definitely had to dial back my leaders. I know I've heard everybody talking about it last week. I've been using at most 15-pound fluoro. A lot of days we've been having to bump down to 12-pound. Makes things interesting if you hook a bigger redfish.
Right.
But it definitely helps hide that bait a bit.
What are you seeing in the rivers as far as bait? And the reason I'm asking is because I'm here in Orange Beach Marina, and there are all these little pogies in here right now. I was just curious to see what you were seeing in the rivers and tidal and little straight creeks and stuff.
A lot of what I've been noticing has been a lot of mullet running around, kind of some 4 to 5 inch mullet. And then, of course, the big hog legs in there too. Yesterday and a couple of days prior to that, what we were noticing and kind of what we made our switch over to, a lot of those fish seemed like they were eating, I don't know if they were some kind of glass minnow or anchovy, just kind of like a small, long, slender profile. But I've seen that. I did fish the upper end of the bay a couple of days ago, and I still saw some shrimp around up there too. So seems like there's a little bit of everything around right now.
Yeah, man. You mentioned trying to find, the right bait, throwing a lot of assortments, 6 or 7 different lures for you're finding out what they want. Are you finding that matching the hatch? Like you mentioned that long bait. What are they keying in on? Is it anything in particular, or you just got to try until you get lucky?
Yeah, I've definitely been trying to match the hatch. So like yesterday, like you said, they were eating a lot of, those glass minnows. So I was throwing kind of a long, slender, rip and stop. I guess that's a Rapala bait. Of course, if I'm around, if I'm seeing a lot of mullet around, seeing a lot of jumping and that kind of stuff, I always keep a slick side on this time of year. Definitely can't go wrong with that one. Other than that, I just kind of stick with my two. I like some kind of paddle tail. Did a bunch of different colors. That kind of leads into what I've trying. I hadn't necessarily found one color to be working any better than any of the others, but some days they preferred other things. And then past that, a good old Mirrodine. Can't go wrong with the Mirrodine. I love to have one of those tied on.
Yeah, it's definitely a must this time of year, and so is a slick. I definitely agree with that. Are you finding out anything as far as, are you preferring a incoming or an outgoing tide right now? Any weight to any of that?
I hadn't necessarily been preferring to fish one or the other, but it definitely has been changing, the areas I've been focusing on a little bit more. So the days I've gotten out and we've been fishing kind of a falling tide, I'll stick a little closer to the mouths of the rivers and stuff. And then, of course, if there's anywhere where there's a feeder creek dumping out or any kind of just good current, I'll fish those from an outgoing tide. And then, like right now, if you're fishing, I guess it'd be kind of the afternoons. If you've got that incoming tide, I will venture in a little bit deeper and try to get into some of the back areas of these tighter creeks. And same creek mouths that I would set up outside of on the falling tide, I just push up into those, and it seems like the fish almost kind of have been following the tide up into those creeks. So I haven't necessarily noticed one side or the other being better for me, but it's just, like I said, I've kind of had to adjust where I've been fishing, depending on each one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like how you outgoing, you're going to fish near the mouths, and incoming, you're going to get up a little bit further in these tidal creeks. I'd never really thought about that, I don't guess.
It makes some sense because,
For sure.
Outgoing obviously is sweeping the bait out, but on the incoming, you got to figure, like, if you're in a little bend and there's a hole or something on the backside, like it's some refuge for a predator fish to sit there and ambush.
Ambush is correct. Yep.
Exactly. And I know I've noticed a lot of our fish are lazy. They can sit and hide somewhere in ambush like that. That's going to be where they're looking for.
Yep.
Are you catching anything on shrimp right now, or shrimp imitations?
I tell you, I guess the beginning of last week, I was using some shrimp imitations. I've kind of started to branch away from them though. I've been trying the pop and cork and stuff. And I would say of everything I've been throwing, the pop and cork and shrimp imitation has been a little slow for me. And, if I'm going to throw something, on a jig head or something, I usually go to a paddle tail regardless of shrimp around or not.
You were talking about finding some holes and stuff. So look, if I'm out there in my kayak or in my boat, like what kind of like water depth am I looking for? Am I going from 5 foot to 8 foot, or am I going from 3 foot to 5 foot?
Yeah, so the deeper holes, I've been kind of looking around kind of that 6 to 8 foot range. That's kind of been the magic number for me. And that just seems, I don't know what the water temperature is doing down there or what, but that seems to be what they want to kind of hang out in. The shallower stuff, that's where, like I mentioned earlier, that's where I've been finding my redfish and everything. But as far as if I'm looking for a hole, looking for a trout, I'm looking for, 6 feet of water or so.
Gotcha, man. That makes great sense. I had something come up earlier that I wanted to ask you about. Man, I think, one of the good things about kayaking and being able to fish in a kayak is you're versatile. You can put it in the back of the truck or put it on your little trailer, depending on how big your boat, slash kayak is. I would assume that there's, especially you, I know you travel a decent amount between Louisiana and just different areas in Florida. How do you know, or what do you look for as far as launching a kayak? What are you looking for? Yeah, I mean, just what are you looking for? I would assume there's some hazards involved, and it's got to be kind of a process. Just kind of walk us through your process whenever you know you're going fishing and maybe somewhere different.
Oh yeah, it is a process is definitely the right word. So I'm always looking for, of course, an area that looks the most productive fishing wise. So I'll hop on Google Maps and say if I'm going to Louisiana, for instance, I'll just kind of find the area where I'm staying and just start to look at waters, just looking for where I think the fish would be. And then I guess the second part, once I've found a good area, I've found an area that I think is going to be, pretty fishy for me. Then you start to look, is there any do you have any roadways that run near that body of water? Are there any kind of bridges that go across the body of water? Anything like that, somewhere that I could kind of squeeze my truck, park my truck, and not be on private property or anything, because that's one thing you don't want to be just pulling up in somebody's yard and assuming you can launch there. Kind of some good areas, if I can find a place where a road dead ends into the water, that is by far the perfect kind of scenario. And as far as terrain, kind of what I'm looking for, that probably make a lot of the boat guys happy. The worst thing you can look for is an actual boat launch or concrete or anything like that. It's when that is one thing about setting it up. We do have to take everything off the kayak as we're coming in and out. So it does take a few minutes to kind of unload. So I usually try to steer away from real boat launches unless they have an area on the side that I can get into the grass or anything. As far as grass is ideal. If you have some grass, that's great. The grass, second is always good. But if you got some mud or something, that's not too bad either. You just have to clean up a little bit more after that. The biggest thing to avoid, like I said, is just rocks and concrete. Anything that you would have to drag your kayak across and scratch the bottom up or anything like that. Kayaks nowadays have a pretty thick plastic on them, so you can handle a little bit of dragging. But if you try to keep the kayak for years, every little bit of scratching adds up after a long time. So I try to avoid that. Now there are times where you don't have the luxury to not have to launch on rocks or not launch on concrete. The one thing I'll do in that scenario is I keep a little outdoor carpet in my truck. And that way I can lay that down on the concrete or on top of the rocks or something, and I can slide that over it. And just like I said, just kind of avoid scratching the bottom too bad. But yeah, I mean, that's, I guess the biggest things would be, as close to you as you can get to a good area. And, having a good soft bottom that you're not going to scratch things up too bad.
And that makes great sense. That's a great tip. Anything else to add, Angelo?
And that's kind of what we needed to know. If you're fishing this time of year, that's exactly what we needed to know.
Yep. Agreed. All right, Captain Scott, we appreciate the report, man. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can either shoot me a text or a call at 251-408-2604, or you can check out List of Waters on the Fishing Chaos app.
Awesome, buddy. We appreciate it. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you next time.
So, all right, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Well, that's another awesome report, and it was brought to you by Bucks Island. They have new pontoon boats, bass boats, bow riders, and aluminum boats for sale. They provide boat service on all kinds of boats, even if they weren't purchased from Bucks. Visit them at 4500 Highway 77 in Southside, Alabama, or give them a call at 256-442-2588. And also brought to you by Hilton's Offshore Charts. The days of heading out and blindly looking for good fishing areas are pretty much over. Don't waste time and money on fuel searching for fish. You need the most recent, highest resolution images to not only know where to go, but where not to go. The knowledge provided by today's technology is critical when planning an offshore fishing trip. Make the choice that professional captains all over the Gulf make and choose Hilton's Real-Time Navigator. The easy-to-use interface and excellent customer service will have you on the fish every time you go. Check them out at hiltonsoffshore.com. All right, Angelo, last but not least, let's go get our Inshore Report. We never know where Captain Patric Garmeson is going to be with ugly fishing. What'd you say, Cap?
Well, like I told y'all, I said last is kind of the typical place that I find myself in fishing tournaments. So it's very fitting, especially with the first BOG of the year coming up this weekend.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. First ball gets this weekend. Ought to be some perfect weather on Saturday for it, right?
Yeah. It looks like rain from can to can't.
That's bog weather.
15 to 40 mile an hour winds out of the south, and switching to the north, 15 to 25. So should be just
if
right.
you're fishing in that, you're dedicated. I'm taking a
I
rain.
think, Angelo, I feel like it's a fine line between dedicated and stupid, but
they overcross. I think if you're fishing in it, you're in the dedicated and stupid. Yeah. It's like, hey, fishing's going to suck, it sounds like, and you're going to be cold and wet.
Let's go.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's see who can put this thing together, because it's always put together. There's bags brought in of nice fish, and it always comes together. It's amazing. There'll be a few people that are like, nah, I'm done. Taking it to the house. I didn't catch one for the first 3 hours. I'm not grinding it out, but believe it or not, most of the participants will fish to the bitter end.
Angelo may not know about the bog
conditions.
No, I don't. I'm like, what is this?
Oh man, Angelo doesn't know about the BOG. It's the Battle of the Grub. It's been passed down generation to generation. It's about over 30 years that this thing's been going on. Started out as a South Alabama Invitational, and but it's an artificial only tournament, 2-man teams. The creels have dropped. At one point it was 10 per boat, and then it dropped to 5, and then we dropped it to 3, and then it's actually I think they brought it back up to 5 this year to bring the competition back up.
Is it grubs only now?
No, it's just artificial bait.
Artificial only, though.
Yep, it was named Battle of the Grubs many years ago, back when most everybody left the dock with sparkle beetles tied on and curly tails, and that was the only thing they used. And now it's a quite wider variety than just a curly tail or a split tail out there.
Very cool, though. Very cool history, very cool tournaments. And they fish in anything. They don't ever reschedule. It's ice on the deck. It's snowing. They're fishing.
Ooh.
Yeah, pretty cool.
I could get into that.
Yeah, it's kind of like you say, dedicated / stupid. Separates the men from the boys.
I like the
it's the Ironman competition of trout fishing for Mobile Bay.
Yeah, and it's
like a bag of beef jerky and a couple slick lures.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Even better.
It's a series, right, Patrick? There's like 5 of them.
It's 4. Yeah, it's a total of 4, and they have points and award a overall champion at the end of the year. So it's pretty exciting stuff. It's evolved over the years. The first year I fished it, I think, was 2006, and at that point they were only doing 1 per year, and then everybody was like, hey, why are we only doing this thing once in the wintertime? And then it went to 2 and to 3, and now there's just a 4, and now there's a point system. And then I added the Winter Classic to the mix as well about 7 years ago. So we have a lot of wintertime speckled trout harassment going on, and it's fun. Like me and Richard really look forward to it along with all the other normal participants. I mean, we're all freaking drooling and waiting on the showdown to begin.
So basically what you're telling us is take whatever information people get from you today and do the opposite, because you're throwing everybody off your trail.
Sandbagging. Positive Pat wouldn't do that to us.
Nah, I couldn't do that. It's not in my DNA for some reason. I'll just spill the beans regardless.
Well, let's talk about it, man. Talk about some wintertime speckled trout harassment. Let's get into it. Where you been and what's been going on? What you been seeing?
I've been sticking to the bay mostly. You know, most people are thinking by the time November rolls around, all the fish are in the rivers and all the fish are gone from the bay. And believe it or not, the water temperature has been in the mid 60s all the way up. I saw as warm as 68 degrees 2 days ago. It was 67 all day yesterday. It dropped a little bit more again today down to 66. But the fish are, I mean, they're in a fall type pattern. I mean, you can find them in the rivers. You can find them in the bay. They're eating, they seem to be around pogies and mullet pretty good. If you can find pogies and mullet, it's a very, very good recipe for having some good quality speckled trout in the area. And if you can find those two visual clues, they are definitely going to eat a slick lure. Slick has been about the only thing I've been throwing for probably the last 10 days or so. My customers are catching fish on them. We're experimenting with different colors, and for the most part, our lighter colored lures. The new croaker color has been working well. The peppermint colored slick lure has been working well, and that's the one that's just kind of a light pink all the way through. The cool beans has actually been just kind of okay, but the that piment or peppermint has been really good for me. I mean, I've got pocketfuls of torn up lures at the end of the day. I told the guys, I was like, you know what? I'm pretty good. It's a pretty good thing I've got the hookup on the slick lure from Uncle Joey, because I would probably be spending more money on lures than live shrimp right now, as many as that we're using. When you have 4 guys in your tackle box the whole day, taking in time putting a new lure on it, they go and it adds up pretty quick. So I don't want to scare anybody off that it's expensive to use a slick lure, because it's not, because you can effectively catch a lot of fish on one lure. But like I said, when I have 4 guys using them, all of them at the same time, or 3 guys using them all at the same time, they do start going pretty quick.
It's going to add up on you for sure.
Yeah.
Man, the water is so dang clear everywhere. I guess that's why those natural bait colors are working better, huh?
Yeah, I kind of mixed in with my guys yesterday and threw the dirty ice, which is the opposite. I mean, it's the one that is so bright you almost have to wear sunglasses to look at it.
Yeah,
and
chartreuse.
And yeah, I mean, sure enough, chartreuse, and it looks like it's glowing in the water, and they were eating it too. So it's definitely a profile thing. They like that. They like that bait. We've thrown a few swim bait stuff with paddle tails and all, just to kind of mix things up, and it wasn't really doing much. Did sneak up into the Delta during one of my trips and caught some on a rattle trap. We had some real hard tide moving out and a south wind pushing in, and made it pretty funky to try to fish it. So I was like, you know what? Sunken and wine in a rattle trap really makes sense in this situation, and picked up a few fish that way. And there again, I mean, we were around some pogies. So, I mean, we were feeding the fish a pogie or shad type imitation bait, and that's what they were eating. Throwing a popping cork with a shrimp imitation has kind of felt almost pointless on most of my trips. There have been a few areas where it's produced a few fish, but man, I'm really digging a trip where everybody can throw a slick lure, because the quality of the fish is there. I mean, our fish average is like, I've looked at it because I log all my catches on Fishing Chaos, and most of our average catches are like 17.5 to 18.25 inches over the course of the day. So, I mean, and that's even, throwing a few fish in there that are in the 14 and 15 inch range, which are pulling the average down a little bit. So it's definitely producing a lot of quality right now, and well worth the effort to get out there and sling that thing around. The one thing I will say, just having a lot of people on my boat that have never thrown the lure, the key is getting a slower cadence with a consistent movement of the lure. Don't just let it fall and not hopping it, and you're not going to want to hop and let it glide to the bottom and let it sit there or anything like that. You may get a few strikes that way, but the vast majority of my anglers that are brand new to it, and I'm just trying to get them in tune to it, is just a nice, slow, steady retrieve. probably about every third or fourth handle crank, give it a little twitch and just keep reeling. And then the other key component is when they feel the bite, don't just snatch it as hard as you can, because a lot of times you might get a bump, like 2 bumps, and that's that fish biting it and then actually reposition it in his mouth or her mouth to swallow it, which is then going to turn the lure in reverse. So that's when you got to do the Richard Rutland, come out of your shoes and fly off the deck of the boat, hook set. You're right, because what you're having to do is you're having to turn that lure all the way around and slam it into the fish. And that's the one thing is when you feel the bite, reel until you feel a little bit of the weight of the fish, and then jack its jaw. The guys that I've had on the boat that are locals and have fished the lure before and claim to have no success, like they're like, man, I get bites, but I can't catch them, blah blah blah, and have them catching their fair share. And by the end of the trip, and a lot of it had to do with the fact that they gave it an extra, maybe a 2 count or 3 count or something like that. But the main thing is keep reeling and get a little bit of the weight of the fish on the rod before you set the hook, and you will catch way more fish on the slick lure.
Patric, we had Scott on a little bit ago, and he was basically saying a lot of the same things. Nothing on the shrimp imitations right now. Everything sounds like it's keyed in on pogies and mullet. And he was kind of fishing, creek and tidal river open mouths and stuff. Where are you, you kind of told us to look for it, but what are we looking for? Are we just running up and down the bay? Are we looking for a water depth? Are we looking for where rivers are coming into the bay? What are you looking for?
Oh, good question. I find a lot of fish are near structure, docks and piers and that sort of thing. Ledges are really good if you can find an area where you've got some water that goes from, say, 2 feet down to 3 feet or 2 feet down to 4 feet. Some kind of ledge like that is real good. If you get into the rivers, definitely work in some of those ledges where you have shallower, say 2 to 4 foot of water, and then it drops off to like 8 feet. I did do a little river fishing today, and that was kind of the key component there. Most of the fish were on the flat, but there were a few strikes once it came off of the flat and got over that deeper water. But the guy I was fishing with, he and I were both talking about it. We feel like like the fish may have been coming, some of them may have been following the bait, but others may have been just kind of suspended over that deeper water and then coming up and striking kind of close to the boat. Those fish are really hard to catch because you got kind of a short leash, and it's hard to be able to see the flash and see the fish and not just jerk it right away from them. Even me, who I understand the game that they're playing, but I'm still gonna probably yank it right out of his mouth before he gets a chance to eat it. But it is something to think about and be cautious of, that if you're around fish, you may get that last minute strike right there at the boat. And if you got enough patience to be able to drop that rod tip and give it just enough time to get to kind of to position that lure in his mouth and be able to set the hook, then you can get them caught. You don't have to. It's not dodging lures.
Right, not slinging back in the boat at you. Well, man,
Right,
that's a great report, and those are several great tips, man. We appreciate you being on as usual. If folks want to get up with you and book a trip, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
First thing to do, check out my website. I've been booking a lot of stuff already in the spring, booking days in March and April and May. So if you're looking ahead, go ahead and take a look at the calendar at uglyfishing.com. Click the book now button. You can book it online, or if you need to get in contact with me about anything, you can call me or text me 251-747-1554.
Awesome, buddy. As always, we appreciate the report. Be safe out there, man. We'll talk to you next time. Keep whacking them.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. You'll take a minute to check out a few of this week's great sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Test Calibration. If your diesel has low power or is consuming excessive amounts of fuel, these are common signs that your turbocharger may need to be rebuilt. Don't waste your money online with the cheapest options where you get no support after the sale. Test Calibration has been selling and servicing diesel, turbochargers, and fuel injection systems since 1976. No matter if you're running a diesel in your boat, tractor, or truck, Test Calibration can help you. Contact them at 800-822-0057 or visit them online at testcalibratindieselandturbo.com. And also brought to you by MB Ranch King. MB Ranch King hunting blinds and feeders are built to last, right here in the USA. With durability and convenience in mind, MB Ranch King's maintenance-free blinds are constructed with high-grade steel and come in a variety of sizes to meet any hunter's needs. They offer high-quality, easy-to-use corn and protein feeders that can be filled with both feet on the ground. Call Kevin today for more info or a quote at 205-807-2937. MB Ranch King, built in the pursuit of perfection. All right, Angelo, you know we can't get out of here without doing What Did You Learn, man? What'd you learn today?
Just segment we just finished up with Patric. I mean, sometimes I like to go Bill dance on him, and you look like a freaking goofball up on the bow of the boat doing that. But, I mean, like...
Especially with that slick lure, man, it's a big profile. So it gets whacked super hard. And, yes, I definitely agree with him about his, keeping in his mouth a little bit longer before you go Bill dance on them, which is not always easy to do. But I'm really bad about it with the slick lure. So that definitely stuck out to me as well. Let him sit in his mouth for, 2 count and then set the hook. Cause I'm bad about it. Cause as soon as you get whacked on that big profile, I mean, it's a hammer bite usually. And,
you just amped up, it's hard to keep the emotions under control.
Right. Yeah. It's hard to count to 2 after you get smacked. It's not always easy.
What about you, man? What did you pick up today?
I would have to say, the Cap Adams segment is always awesome. Dude's a wealth of knowledge. He crushes everything that he touches. But I picked up from Scott, and I guess maybe, I don't know if I do this involuntarily or not, but I thought it was cool what he was saying about, or how he's keying in on, outgoing tide, you're fishing the mouse, which makes sense. Everything's flushing out of whatever system that you're fishing, and then vice versa. Everything's flushing in on an incoming. Everything's going to be pushed up more in the rivers.
Makes sense. Sometimes we overthink it.
For sure, without a doubt, man. All right, guys, that wraps up another great segment. Let's take a quick break, check out a few of this week's sponsors. That segment was brought to you by Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks are proud to be your metal roofing headquarters for over 40 years. Save time and money by buying from the most reliable manufacturer on the Gulf Coast. Buy it today, pick it up today. With the addition of their new store in Cantonment, Florida, they now have 8 locations to serve you. Dixie Supply and Baker Metalworks, your metal roofing headquarters. And also brought to you by Alabama Marine Resources. The Alabama Marine Resources Division reminds all recreational anglers who harvest gray triggerfish, greater amberjack, or red snapper that their catch must be reported through Snapper Check. This includes vessels, kayaks, and shore anglers who possess any of these reef fish. Reporting is mandatory and must be done prior to landing fish in Alabama, regardless of where the fish were caught. Anglers can report to Snapper Check online at OutdoorAlabama.com or through the official Outdoor AL app. For more information about Snapper Check or any of the 2021 fishing seasons, please visit OutdoorAlabama.com. All right, Angelo, as usual, man, we appreciate you co-hosting with us. I always say, it's never a bad day whenever you get to sit around and talk fishing with your buddies for a couple hours.
I mean, I can't think of a better way to end a Wednesday, quite honestly.
Absolutely agree, man. As always, you're a great interviewer, asking great questions, and we appreciate you being on.
Hey, I love it. I appreciate you guys having me, and we'll catch you next time.
All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 315-66. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up this week. You guys, please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. If you'd like us to email you the podcast each week, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Again, just text the word fishing to 314-665-1767. Subscribe to our email list, and we'll send you the new show each week. You guys keep whacking them. We'll talk to y'all next week. This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report has been brought to you by Coastal Conservation Association of Alabama. Check them out at ccaalabama.org. Also brought to you by Fishbites. Check out the full line of scented saltwater and freshwater baits as well as tackle at fishbites.com. And also brought to you by Photonis Defense PD Pro Ultralight Ultra Compact Night Vision Systems. Simply the best in-class night vision systems ever built. Contact them at photonisdefense.com to learn more. Photonis Defense, masters of darkness.
This week's Alabama Saltwater Fishing Report brought to you by me, Angelo DePaola, The Coastal Connection. Find us online at thecoastalconnection.com.
And also brought to you by KillerDock. KillerDock uses marine-grade aluminum to make fabulous fish cleaning tables and stunning canopies that will keep us out of the sun. KillerDock combines durability, function, and design to uniquely upgrade your entire dock experience. Visit KillerDock.com to see more. And also brought to you by Foster Contracting, the fortified roofing professionals at Fortified Roofing Pros. With them, you're making the smart choice. Check them out at fortifiedroofingpros.com or call them at 251-447-2978. And also brought to you by Sam's Stop and Shop is your one-stop shop located at 27122 Canal Road in Orange Beach, Alabama. Sam's has a little bit of everything, including a deli, inshore, offshore, and surf fishing tackle. They also have bait, clothing, groceries, name brand sunglasses, and so much more. Stop by and shop or call them at 251-981-4245 today.